Hello, everybody, and welcome to This Week in Westerly. My name is Ben Barber.
And I'm Michael Niemeyer. How's it going?
Good, Mike. How are you? I haven't really talked to you this week.
I know it's been going well. We've had our ups and downs here, just like anyone else. How's things going for you?
Good. No complaints, I guess. It's been nice out, and I enjoy working outside on the back slab of patio here. So that's always nice. When the weather starts to get warm and you can go outside and work your day away in the sunshine is better, or the cloud cover as it is today.
Absolutely.
Um,
I've been cracking the window open. Haven't been able to get away from the desk that much, but have been having the window open and having that nice fresh air come in.
there you
It's
go.
so nice.
So last week was your daughter's first birthday. How did that go?
It was great. We were very concerned because she started having what we thought were seizures. Turns out we had a brain scan done this week and they weren't seizures, but based on her prior medical history, we thought she was going to have to be hospitalized on her first birthday. And we were so blessed that that didn't happen, and we got to have a beautiful celebration. So that's where I was last week on getting all that ready and everything. How about you, Ben? Where have you been?
So first of all, that's amazing. I haven't heard that update that they were not seizures, and I'm so happy about that. So congratulations, man.
Thank you.
And I saw pictures of the birthday party photos that Sarah posted, I believe, and they were just wonderful. I've just been working, working and getting. So, for anybody who doesn't know, my mom passed away of COVID on Christmas, and there's no we, I guess, finally had the memorial service last Saturday, which is another reason why we didn't do a show and Easter. But so there was a lot of anxiety leading up to and after that, understandably. And so this week's all been all about getting back to work and doing some self-care. So it's been a good week overall.
It's really good to hear. And can I just say it was a beautiful service.
Thank you.
I think everyone who watched it was really proud of everything you did with it. And I'm so glad to hear that you got to catch up this week.
Thank
Because
you.
as far as I know, the word work and the name Ben are synonymous. So
Did I thank you for the flowers that you sent, by the way?
I think you did. Yeah, you did.
Okay. Because I was very worried that I didn't do that. But you sent you and Sarah sent some wonderful flowers and a gorgeous vase that I'm keeping, and I'm gonna put on the shelf with some other nice stuff that means a lot. So thank you very much. Let's talk about our guest today.
Sure.
I'm excited.
Absolutely. This week we have a great guest. He's from the Jonnycake Center, the preeminent social services institution of Westerly. He's the social media and marketing manager. His name is Matt Levy, and he is coming to us live here. Let's talk to him right now.
Hey, Matt.
Hi. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here.
And congratulations on the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. We're so glad to have you. Why don't you tell us how your morning's going right now?
Good. I've been looking forward to coming on since you were kind enough to reach out for us.
Mhm.
Otherwise, kind of just I'm in New London, enjoying pretty nice. I'm looking at the window right now. Pretty gray day outside, but I'll take the warm weather while we can get it.
Absolutely. So you're a graduate of Miami University in Ohio.
That's correct. Yes.
And you're from Ohio.
Research.
The most exciting Miami, bar none.
And there are some other ones possibly that may exist.
What brought you over to this part of the country?
So I was born and raised in Ohio. in about 2000, it was 2012, I did a summer internship after graduating Miami of Ohio. I did a summer internship in New York with Samuel French. It's a theatrical publishing house. And honestly, at the time, my plan was kind of to move from Ohio to New York and live the big city New York life and all of that. So I did a summer internship and also worked at Starbucks on the side. Kind of intending just to stay there as long as they possibly could. I had a sublet in Washington Heights, and it was all really nice. But unfortunately, the jobs just were not coming. I mean, I'm guessing just 3 months in New York was hard to, I guess, get my foot in the door of the publishing world. But it had been about Labor Day 2012. I saw a job ad for a theater company in Waterford, Connecticut, the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center. And they were looking for a year-round intern with somebody pretty much of my exact skill set. And their internship provided room, housing, and board. And it was the very next step in my career from where I wanted to be. So this position in Waterford, Connecticut just kind of fell out of the sky. And it was really, really just incredible timing. So I was incredibly fortunate to land that position. And I ended up staying in it for 2 years, kind of just packed up and moved to Waterford and figured to see what happens. And I just really fell in love with this area. Being a native of Ohio, I'd been to New York a couple times, but I never really got to spend any time at all in New England. But I just really, really, really like this area. The personality, the character, the history, the charm. There's so much here. There's so much to do. So I love my position with the O'Neill. Unfortunately, it was a year-to-year internship, apprenticeship sort of position. But I just didn't want to leave the area at all. I tried really hard to stay here, and I was lucky to find another job with one of the regional chambers of commerce in Eastern Connecticut. So I stayed in that job for about 4.5 years. Learned a whole lot. It was a really, really exciting job where we did some really cool stuff. But then I saw this Jonnycake Center Westerly job, and just career-wise, it was a little more aligned to what I really wanted to do and where I really wanted to be. So I was very fortunate that I interviewed and was able to get the job. And it just opened up so many chapters and possibilities I never even knew were possible, especially for somebody of my age. And they've been so very, very wonderful to work for. And as an organization, the community, it's just so wonderful to feel that what we do matters. And every day in our office, we see the very real impact it has on people's lives that our social services office and food pantry do, and even our thrift store. So I guess that's my story of how an Ohioan came to New London and Westerly.
That's wonderful. I'm so glad that theater is the reason we're lucky enough to have you.
Because theater is the reason that we're all here right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
really?
Mike. So Mike is 4.5 years younger than I am. So we didn't actually go to high school together, but after my senior year of high school, I founded a community theater production company with my best friend and business partner, and then I continued to produce the shows at the school sometimes,
Wow.
and use a lot of the students from Cheraho in productions that we were doing when I was still 17, 18. And Mike was one of the Mike was always like my go-to tech person. He was the most trustworthy person, most capable person on lights and sound and stage managing, whatever we needed.
That's
and then
awesome.
One time, speaking of Samuel French, in the summer of 2007, we were doing Rumors, Neil Simon Rumors, and Mike, who I don't know if I've ever seen him act before, but he took one of the roles in Rumors and was like far and away the best person in the show. Like out of nowhere, like we were all like, Niemeyer, what's happening here? And I'm very excited to have reconnected with him in this past year. So I love it. I love Samuel French. That's a really cool story, and the Eugene O'Neill Center. And also just a side note, because I know that we're gonna take more of a deep dive into Jonnycake and what you guys do there. But the social media for Jonnycake, which you are responsible for, is fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
No problem. You're welcome. I've been watching the social media for Jonnycake for a little while now, and you do a wonderful job with that.
Thank you. It's really good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you all about Jonnycake, but before we do, as a bunch of theater nerds hanging out right here, I understand you're a fan of Les Mis.
Oh man, you've really done your research.
About where in the soundtrack of Les Mis do you think American history is right now?
Oh man, it's funny. I listen to Les Mis, I'll say, almost every day. I mean, I am completely and utterly obsessed with that show. And I was actually just listening to it this morning thinking, man, there are some really big parallels right now, just in terms of, I guess, like the society of France in like the 1820s, kind of, in a sense, like recovering from the Napoleonic times, figuring out how to move forward. I think, throughout the show and the novel, there's this big question of morality. Who are we and what are we trying to achieve? And it's kind of, I think, the center point for the whole show is each character trying to do their best to make their way through the world in a way that makes sense to them. And I think we're kind of in this sort of fractured, similar sort of state right now, where I think that right now there are so many different notions of what's right and what's wrong. How do we move forward in a way that benefits other people, or for some of us, ask, how do I move forward in a way that benefits myself? And I think one of the things about Les Mis is that there's no clear answer. I mean, things work out to different extents of success for different characters. But I think we're kind of in the whole thing right now. I mean, I think, perhaps I'm naive. I don't think we're quite at the point where people are taking to this, getting ready to for all sorts of business in the streets and everything. But, I think that if you know Les Mis, there's this big question, especially in a lot of the first half of the show and the second half of the show, about what are the characters' roles and ability to make the future that they want to happen. And if you know Les Mis, spoiler alert, it doesn't work out so great for everybody. So I don't know. It's a really good question.
It's called The Miserables. I think it's safe to say it doesn't work out for everybody.
Thank you for that thoughtful answer. I'm glad I got to ask it of you.
I'm going to keep thinking about that one.
I'm going to say we're at one day more. That's where I'm saying we're at one day more. Yeah, we're right. We're about the middle of it.
All right. Well, let's get into Jonnycake Center. Like I said, it is a preeminent social services organization here in Westerly. Why don't you tell anyone who doesn't know what Jonnycake Center does, what it is they do?
Sure. So we are a nonprofit social services organization and food pantry and thrift store. Just as a general overview. Our three main wings of operations are our social services office, which provides many things. It provides emergency financial assistance. So more than anything else, for anybody in the Westerly, Charlestown, Richmond, Hopkinton area, specifically Rhode Island residents in need. If you're having trouble paying for, let's just say, your mortgage, for your rent, for important medical bills, utilities, electricity, really your most essential bills. If you're starting to if the bill is starting to become insurmountable, the center does provide emergency financial assistance to help bridge that gap and make sure that nobody has to be evicted or nobody's power gets shut off or anything like that. So it's really just the essential bills, making sure that our neighbors can stay warm and safe and housed and have the essentials that they need. Our food pantry kind of ties in very much with that. Our food pantry is connected in spirit to social services office. So if you are a family in need of food supplies, if you just need some just to help you get you through the month. If you have kids who are in school who might not be getting all the meals that they used to be able to get, if you need food for your family or for the kids, especially for the weekends, there's a lot of programs from the food pantry to make sure that individuals, families, and especially children have plenty of food. I think nominally clients can visit the food pantry once every 30 days to receive a good supply of food. But if you're in an emergency situation, especially if you have something, if you're really in crisis, we can help you out. And again, that's food programs for families and individuals, and especially children. And we also fundraise for our social services and food pantry through our public-facing thrift store. The thrift store is open 7 days a week at our facility at 23 Industrial Drive in Westerly in the North End. And the thrift store sells 7,000 square feet worth of clothes, jewelry, accessories, furniture, artwork, multimedia, kids' toys, craft supplies, and all sorts of odds and ends. Everything in the thrift store has been donated from somebody in the community. It's all completely community driven, I would say. We sell our wares at the thrift store for about 1/3 of what you could find in retail rates, and we do take a bit of pride in what we put on the thrift store, so that we're only putting out stuff that is high quality and we're pretty sure somebody's going to want to buy. And so those proceeds in turn help fund the social services office and food pantry. So in the way, that's kind of our three main operations between the social services office and pantry and thrift store, and that's kind of a general top-down overview.
I love the thrift store so much, and I understand
We all do.
I understand there's a bridal sale going on.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So right now, if you visit, you'll see there's tons of bridal dresses right now, bridesmaids dresses, wedding shoes, about 1 billion wedding glasses. You can get all sorts of wedding planning guides, registry books, men's formal wear. Our thrift store manager is her name is Heather. She's incredibly dynamic and pays close attention to I guess kind of what our inventory is, what the social trends are, and kind of just fun sort of sales that we can put stuff out that's either unique for us and or is priced well below what we'd find in most other places, and that it's all high quality. So we can do what we can to continually try to think of new sales and new opportunities to either bring in people who are familiar with us, who know that there's always something new to find on our shelves, or bring in somebody new and introduce them to, I guess, all the fun you can have at the Jonnycake Center thrift store. And I say our staff kind of thoroughly enjoys working there. If you're ever there towards the end of the day, the business day, you'll start to see kind of staff starting to kind of emerge with their own purchases to make stuff that we've picked up throughout the day.
That's wonderful. I know I love going there. I can imagine it's a fun place to work. It's a fun place to be. How many beneficiaries do these different services reach about? Do you have any notion of how many folks these services touch?
Yeah, so the data is collected in a few different ways. I can just tell you right now, like in the data that I have for the year 2019 and 2020, which doesn't include a lot of the pandemic service, which I'll be glad to talk about a little bit later on. But just for example, in the year 2019, from July 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2020, the pantry gave out over 233,000 meals to the community. So that's just in terms of food supplies, in terms of special meal kits, in terms of meal kits for children on the weekends and holidays. We do a big push over the holidays for food for Thanksgiving and Christmas and other holidays around that time. So that's just really getting into the pandemic season. That was 233,000 meals. And in a sense, we're proud to have provided that level of service, but it's also, it's not always a good thing to have that level of service. One thing we talk about a lot is that in a perfect world, we wouldn't even need to exist. There wouldn't have to be a food pantry and large social services department, because people would be doing well enough that they won't be in crisis situations. So it's a bittersweet feeling to give out that level of food, and unfortunately still see something of a rising need, especially with COVID times. I can also say that our social services office gave out, let me just pull up my numbers, about $111,000 last year, from July 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2020, $111,000 in financial assistance for rent and mortgages, utilities, electricity, medical bills, and other kind of pressing needs. And since the pandemic began, obviously, we don't have all our numbers yet for 2020 into 2021, but it'll certainly be considerably higher, considering all the challenges we've had this last year.
That's incredible that before the pandemic, over $100,000 in acute financial need was provided, and about a quarter of 1,000,000 meals.
Yeah, we certainly keep busy.
I never would have guessed 250,000 meals. That's astounding. I noticed on your website, it says that you work with each individual to find a path out of dependency towards self-sufficiency.
Correct.
That's something you were just touching on, the ideal of eventually not needing to exist. Could you explain a bit about that path?
Sure. So on one hand, it's kind of the path towards self-sufficiency, I think, it depends on a client-to-client basis, depending on what their specific needs are and circumstances are. But the last thing we want to do is take care of somebody's problems for them and then leave them no better for it, because you're just creating a self-sustaining cycle in which nobody can possibly break out. So we work with a few other agencies in our area to try to make sure that if a client comes to us with a problem that we might not be able to help with, if it's perhaps deeper than just we need financial assistance, this thing that maybe one of the other partners can help with, we'll get on the phone with them and call them up and try to make sure that whoever the client is, that they're getting the service that they need, so that they don't have to keep depending on our services, or that they can either gain access to programming or resources that helps them maybe achieve a degree more financial stability. And with that, I mean, it might not be an immediate thing, but if we can just do maybe small footsteps where somebody might be able to hold on to their assistance in a more, I guess, longer lasting way, just whatever the circumstances are. And then use that to, I guess, incrementally help get out of the crisis situation. One thing we talk about is that for any of us, I mean, many of us are one or two missed paychecks away from being in a really, really bad position. And that's something that we see time and time again. So I mean, once you're in that hole, it's so incredibly difficult to dig oneself out. And, you know, we don't provide all the services in the world, but one thing we can do is help bridge the gap for the emergency situation. And then if it's somebody who might need health insurance, for example, we can't provide that health insurance, but we can send them to Wood River Health Services, get the client set up there, and then maybe through that, maybe make a bit of a gain in that person's situation. And then hopefully just, with that extra resource, they can be one step ahead and getting out of crisis. So that's just kind of one example. It really does depend on a case-by-case basis.
You've touched a bit there on the network of other organizations that you work with. Could you talk a bit about some of the partnerships you have to achieve your goals?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So the challenge that I think there's two modes of service. There's pre-pandemic and post-pandemic service. So pre-pandemic, we were very fortunate that a number of services would make themselves available at our site in Westerly 1 to 2 times a month, so that our clients could just show up at our office and they could have access to our services. Or, for example, United Way of Rhode Island would send their 211 bus, which is kind of like almost like a mobile United Way office. They would park it right in our back parking lot. so the client could have access to us and United Way. National Grid, for example, has a consumer advocate who would come and make him or herself available to our office 1 to 2 times a month. So the clients, if they had any problems with their electricity rates or utilities like that, they could come meet face to face with that advocate and work out a plan for themselves. As I mentioned, Wood River Health Services would send a representative to help get clients signed up for health services and health insurance. Same with trying to think of some of the other ones. We had a representative from a domestic violence organization who is available. Clients who might have been in that terrible position could reach out and be able to meet in confidence with that domestic violence representative and work out however to help heal that situation. And that's just a few. I have a sheet with me that actually has many more. Some of the other ones, I'll be glad to talk a bit later about Age-Friendly Westerly, which is a program that we have. It's a big collaborative partnership we have right now to specifically address the challenges of older adults in Westerly. But with that, we're working with Yale New Haven Health, Westerly Hospital, the Westerly Senior Center, Westerly Library, Westerly Police, and the list really goes on. Some of the local faith organizations around have a lot of the local churches and houses of worship have been so supportive of us, and they donate a lot of their surplus supplies, coat drives, food, and a lot of our volunteers come from faith organizations as well.
And
so it's really quite.
And since the I know that since the pandemic started, the Jonnycake Center has actually been housing Christchurch's Living Supply Closet.
That's absolutely correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely correct.
Also, about the age-friendly thing, we have a comment from Deb Burton who says, RI Elder Info would love to be a resource for your social service
Oh, wonderful.
team. Very excited that Westerly is part of the age-friendly movement. I'll connect you guys.
Please do.
Yeah.
We're really excited to get this off the ground.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Go ahead, Ben.
So those partnerships, and this is something that that I've actually talked to Deb about extensively, is nonprofits working together instead of against each other, right? Like I know that donations and funding and all of those things, like you get into this aspect of you need to take care of your own organization, and you need to make sure that things are coming in so that you have the ability to have assistance for people at the Jonnycake Center and for all of these other organizations. But the end goal is to help the people that your organization needs to help. And sometimes most of the time, not most of the time, but most of the time when the correct answer is, all of the time when the correct answer is, the help is better somewhere else for this specific situation. The fact that you have this large network of organizations and partnerships to help the people that need help, right? Like that's the mission statement, that's the goal for each of these social service organizations. And the fact that it's such a broad partnership between everyone, when and the fact that you're like, you could look at we gave out 250,000 meals last year. That's amazing. We're the helpiest helpers in the world, in this corner of the world.
Absolutely.
Would be missing the point. And the fact that your response and Jonnycake's response is that, hey, that's wonderful. We wish it was zero and we didn't need to exist. That's the goal, and that's the mission statement, and that's the goalpost. So I love the Jonnycake Center. I love everything that you've been saying. I love the mission, and I just can't commend you guys on the work that you all do.
Thank you. It's rewarding and heartbreaking. I mean, you see people coming in having, it might be one of the hardest things they've had to do in their life is kind of walk through our doors or give us a call in pandemic times and say, I need help. I mean, for many people, especially with the pandemic, we've seen so many people reach out for the first time for help saying, I never thought I would be in this position. I don't know where to turn. I don't know what to do. How can you guys help? And it really is, it's heartbreaking. It's great to be the resource for help, but just to see people really struggling in such a profound way, it really, really keeps us grounded and makes us aware like how there is this real need in the community, and that it's not going away. So we want to be there to help alleviate the challenge. I think that our executive director, Lee Eastbourne, hires a very empathetic staff who is well aware that for any of us, it could be any of us anytime. For some of our staff, it has been us or is us currently. It's just, we're not here to be snooty and look down and make the situation worse for anybody. We're trying to do precisely the opposite of that. I mean, it kind of all goes back to public health. Like if you have people being evicted from their houses, if you have people going hungry, if you have kids going hungry, I mean, there's just no end of problems that generates from a ripple effect. So if it means that we can provide a little bit of assistance so that you don't get evicted out of your apartment, if we can give you some extra food for your kids so that they can have the nutrition they need to do well in school and stay focused, it's just everybody benefits from that. And if it's something that we can't do, kind of as you said, we don't pretend to be the be-all answer for everything. But if there's somebody else who does what we don't do, absolutely, and they can help out, absolutely. There's no reason not to take it to use that partnership to everybody's benefit.
It's such an important mission, and I just wanted to see if you could talk a bit about how the mission's been impacted by the pandemic. We've been hitting on it a little bit here and there, but I wondered if you wanted to take a moment to really dig into that.
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, the pandemic has really hit pretty much every single facet possible of our operations, really from the small scale to pretty major effects. So if you go to our store, we do still, if you shop at our store, or if you just enter our building, we do require face masks at all times, even for those who have been vaccinated, just to do as much as we possibly can to protect all of our staff, and especially to protect the food pantry. One thing, especially when masks were kind of introduced last year, and it was a challenge at first, kind of emphasizing the fact that we don't require masks, for example, because we just love bossing everybody around. It's because we have a lot of vulnerable shoppers, vulnerable staff and volunteers who can't afford any sort of illness, especially something like coronavirus. We have our food pantry, which you could say it's one of the hearts of the main central heart of our organization. Any potential threat to that food pantry will result in getting shut down. And then we're talking about the numbers earlier. If we had to shut down our food pantry for days or weeks at a time, I mean, we're talking about thousands of meals, hundreds of people going without food because somebody didn't feel like wearing a mask. And you could say that's kind of an extreme example, but it's something that's kind of ever present in our thoughts. So we, from the very, very beginning, we were strong by requiring masks, requiring no contact, forehead temperature checks for everybody entering our building, including shoppers, clients, and staff and volunteers. We kind of laid out the store with social distancing tape and markers. So that's kind of on the smaller scale. We really embraced as many protocols as we can, just to keep our staff and the food pantry as safe as possible. And we were very fortunate. I think a representative from the Rhode Island Department of Health came and visited us last July or August, and he made a comment that he wished everybody in Rhode Island could be taking it as seriously as we did. So that was kind of gratifying in that moment. On the kind of the larger scale, it has kind of changed a lot of the way that we do connect with, especially our clients. For the shoppers, it's obviously been adjusted having to wear the mask and social distance in the store, but I think that experience is still more or less the same as it was pre-pandemic. But with the social services office, that's unfortunately we have had to make some more dramatic changes. So for example, I talked a little bit earlier about how we used to have the United Way 211 bus come. We had representatives from Wood River Health and National Grid and the United Healthcare and others who would come on site. Unfortunately, since the pandemic, pretty much all of that has been suspended. or it's now done remotely. So there is still help from the national grid if you need help. There is still United Way Rhode Island, who is staying very, very active through the past year. There's still domestic violence help. Just the unfortunate part is that they're not available on site anymore at the Jonnycake Center Westerly. So I would say for any clients who are needing those services that had to go more remote, we do still make those referrals. We still have our contacts with those agencies, and we could either set the client in that direction or try to arrange a meeting or help for that client in whatever way we can. Just the unfortunate thing is that it's just not as easy as it used to be. When you could just kind of come in and see people in person. For a while, our social services office did go completely fully remote. We had 1 or 2 staff members available to answer the phone at all times, but for most, I say the majority of 2020, we had to go fully remote as much as we possibly could. Starting in around Labor Day or so, I think it was, we were in a position where we could start having a very small amount of clients come back to the building. But even then, it's just different from how it used to be. I think right now the social services office can only take 1 or 2 people inside the building at all time. Everybody else has to wait outside. So we're kind of slowly bringing those services back, trying to get back to where we used to be. But it is unfortunately just not what it was before last March. One thing that a program that we were very, very proud to coordinate was called the Real Jobs program. It was a program from the Rhode Island Department of Labor and made possible through the Ocean Community Chamber of Commerce, where we provided job training and soft employment skills for unemployed and underemployed adults. So these might be people, folks who were either unemployed or just not working the right job for their circumstances. And so what we would do is we provided paid job training over the span of about 2 to 3 months, where we would bring them into a classroom setting inside the Jonnycake Center Westerly. And we would we had a couple really, really highly qualified instructors teaching stuff ranging from how to write a resume, how to write a cover letter, interviewing techniques, social media, do's and don'ts, kind of workplace etiquette, do's and don'ts, and a lot of computer technology training. And after the participants finished with that program, they were placed into paid internships at other companies in the area. So, I mean, we were really, really proud of this because we saw the direct effect as this raised the employment rate in Westerly, and we taught a lot of people some very important, useful information that they just might not have known otherwise, and got some people jobs and coordinated a lot of information. And we were really, really proud of this program. And some of our staff on site had graduated from that program themselves. And just very, very, very unfortunately from the pandemic, the whole thing has gone on pause since the last class graduated in March 2020. And we're really missing the participants, and we miss playing a part in reducing unemployment and playing a part in helping make for better, more rounded employees. So it's really, really unfortunate. We're hoping to bring that program back as soon as we possibly can. Just in that specific case, it's unfortunately out of our hands. We have to, we can only do it when the Department of Labor makes the program available and we have the funding to do it, both of which have kind of just been on pause for the last year. So I'd say that's probably one of the biggest changes. It's just kind of the pausing of programming and going remote as much as we could.
I want to congratulate you on providing exemplary leadership and protecting your clients and your staff. I think that's wonderful. And I want to wish you all the best in bringing these programs back online as soon as possible, because they're so vital. And thank you so much for providing them.
We miss it. We really do.
Thank you for that. And speaking of the road ahead, what kind of public events do you have coming up? What can folks look forward to?
So we're very, very slowly but surely on the track back to normal. And it's really tough. I mean, right now, ordinarily, we would have been planning a fundraising garden tour at some like the really, really beautiful homes and gardens in Westerly and the Weekapaug area. It's a biannual event that we lasted in 2019 that we were looking forward to doing this year. Usually every year in early April, we have what's called Jumping for Jonnycake. For those who might not know, it's a music concert fundraiser. We bring in 5 or 6 bands and just have an afternoon of fun and dancing and fundraising for Jonnycake. Usually we do the last few years around the time of Labor Day, we've had what we call the Hangar Party. It's a concert fundraiser actually inside one of the hangars at the Westerly Airport. We've been extremely fortunate to have had Sugar play the concert the last few years. And we usually have a benefit evening, kind of like the word gala would be a little too formal for that sort of event is, but it's a pretty important fundraiser, annual fundraiser for us. And unfortunately, that's all been postponed or canceled, both last year and this year. So it's been pretty tough because we do depend on that fundraising revenue to support our social services office and our food pantry to provide the financial assistance and help pay for the food that we buy in bulk. So it's not all complete gloom and doom. Actually, just added to our calendar will be a golf tournament taking place Saturday, September 11th at Elm Ridge Golf Course in, I believe it's Pawcatuck, Connecticut. It is a day-long golf tournament sponsored by John Duffy. Some in the community might know him. And this is we're really excited for this golf tournament. I mean, it's something that this individual takes a lot of the lead in producing himself, and he selects the Jonnycake Center or one of the other nonprofits as the beneficiary of the proceeds of that tournament. But it was just added to our calendar literally about I added to our website yesterday. So we're just now getting off the ground with it, and we could not be more excited because it's really going to be one of the first sort of events at all that we've had since since we had the black and white ball at the Ocean House in 2020, which was a really fantastic fundraising event, courtesy of the Ocean House. But since then, we haven't been able to do anything until this golf tournament has just kind of appeared on the horizon. So if you're a golfer, if you're not a golfer, but just want to enjoy a nice day on the greens at Elm Ridge Golf Course, you can register. I believe the cost is I could be wrong on this, about $100 per person. Teams and foursomes are welcome to register. Sponsorships are sought. All this information is on our website, jonnycake.org, JONNYCAKE.org, and that is called the Fried Chicken Open Golf Tournament. I wasn't able to go to the last one, but I'm led to believe there is a delicious fried chicken dinner at the end of the golf tournament. So
if not, the name doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So let's hope. That's amazing.
So there's fried chicken. There's raffle prizes. There's special contest holes in the golf course. So it'll be a lot of fun. So that's Saturday, September 11th. You can register at jonnycake.org, and the proceeds benefit our social services office and food pantry.
The fried chicken golf tournament at Elm Ridge Golf Course. That's so exciting that's coming up, that you're getting back into the fundraising events.
Exactly.
And you've missed some over the past year. If folks who are listening want to donate, they want to help make up some of that lost revenue that might have come from the missing events, where should they go? How should they go about helping?
Sure. There's a couple of different ways. If you go to our website, jonnycake.org, JONNYCAKE, I bring that up because sometimes people spell check likes to add in an H to our name. And if you spell it Jonnycake with an H, the URL will unfortunately not load. So if you visit our website or just Google Jonnycake Center Westerly, you'll see information there for how to donate. Once you're on the website, there's a donation page where you can specify if you want your donation to go towards any specific program. Like you can specify if you want it to go towards specifically the social services office or food pantry or general operations or children's food. We now have we manage and operate a community garden in Charlestown, Rhode Island. And now, if you so desire, you can specify if you want your donation to benefit that garden. You can specify if you wanted to specifically support children's food. So that's on our website, jonnycake.org. You can also call our donation phone line. It is 401 315 4708. Again, that's 401 315 4708. And that is a donation specific phone line. If you'd like to call in and speak to our development manager, you can also call just our general phone line, 401 377 8069. And you can choose to speak to our social services office or a food pantry or a thrift store if you call that number. And you can also mail a check if you would like to our facility at 23 Industrial Drive in Westerly. And I will say every single dollar helps. Our food pantry purchases food in bulk from the Rhode Island Community Food Bank, from Stop and Shop, from McQuaid's, from Walmart, from some of the other local retailers. And we're able to purchase food in bulk at a discount rate of $1 per 10 pounds of food. So just $1 itself will help buy 10 pounds of food, which can make a really, really big difference. So I think this is a great way to give what you can, give what you're able to, and make a really, really big impact, even with just a few dollars. And it really, really, really does help, especially with the lack of fundraising events that we've been able to do. We've really had to rely on the community in the last year. But to that, I do want to say that, I mean, our jaws have really dropped repeatedly at how incredibly generous the Westerly area has been to us in the last year. So last April 1st, we had what was the inaugural 401 Gives Day. It was a one-day of giving from the United Way of Rhode Island, where they just kind of called on Rhode Islanders throughout the whole state and our friends in Connecticut and surrounding areas to just support many organizations in Rhode Island on one day. And this is a couple weeks into the pandemic. Nobody really knew at that time what to expect. But I believe just in that one day in 2020, when everything was still brand new and in flux, Rhode Islanders gave $1.3 million to nonprofits in Rhode Island just over that one day at the beginning of the pandemic. I believe we were fortunate to get about $8,500 roughly just in that one day last year. And that was kind of one of the first signs that we saw that, maybe for how incredibly tough the situation is, maybe the silver lining is that it has encouraged others with the means to give when they could. And we saw that time and time again throughout 2020. Just kind of throughout the summer, I mean, all sorts of checks and donations came in unsolicited, which was really just a sign of how much people in this area really, really care and are paying attention. There was a concerned individual in the community who I think in October just sent us out of their own goodwill a $5,000 check and said, we know that you haven't been able to do any fundraising in the last year. We know that some people in the community are suffering while others are doing all right for themselves. We feel it's our duty to give back, and hopefully maybe if we give back in the way that we can, we'll inspire others to give, just through spreading word that this even happened. So we were able to get that announcement in the newspaper that an anonymous donor, just through their own goodwill, gave us a pretty sizable donation because they wanted that to attract attention and inspire others to do the same. And then it happened. I mean, I'm still like almost speechless talking about it because it was just so astounding that people saw us in the paper and said, oh, how nice, let's do that too. I mean, it's like something you see out of a movie or something. It was really, really just incredible. So around that time after that announcement went out, many of the people in the community did send in a few more checks or make donations through our website, enough that we could see a definite connection. So it just kind of goes to show, I mean, how much people really, really pay attention and really, truly care. Sorry, I know I'm talking for quite a lot. We had our holiday programming in December, our adoptive family program that we had to completely change because of the pandemic. Usually we give out physical toys and presents and gifts, and we provide actual holiday meals for clients in need. We couldn't do any of that at all this year because there was no way to accept and quarantine and sort through that many toys to make sure that we could hand them out safely. And we didn't want to be sorting and quarantining and figuring out what to do with such an amount of food as we anticipated that there'd be a need for requests for. Instead, we had to make a difficult decision to just go completely financial for 2020. So instead of giving out physical toys and gifts, we gave out gift cards so that clients could purchase their own toys and gifts, and gift cards for people to purchase their own holiday meals. And we were a little nervous going into it, thinking, how will people respond to this, given that this is so different from what people are used to? But again, I think the people just really, really came through in support and just really opened their wallets to us. In lieu of donating toys to this program, people just kind of willingly gave pretty generously so that we could provide the amount of an equivalent amount of financial assistance to what the toys or meals would have been worth. We gave that out instead as financial assistance. And again, it was kind of just, in a sense, shooting from the hip and hoping it worked out. But it did work out. I mean, people were so incredibly supportive of us in the holiday season. And we're fortunate that I think the holiday season does bring out the best in a lot of people in terms of giving back. And then traditionally, it does kind of slow down a little bit after the new year, after the holidays are over with. But this year, I think because of the extraordinary circumstances, we've continued to do pretty well in terms of making sure that our programs have stayed funded for social services in the food pantry. And it's really just all from the generosity of the folks listening to the show, the folks who watch our social media and are on our mailing list. Because people really, really are paying attention. And we've seen just through many examples that people here really want to help. And as somebody who's lived in parts of the country where there just isn't as much of a community spirit or a sense of place, it's so incredibly wonderful just to see this happen. I mean, not just once, not just twice, but repeatedly throughout 2020, even into 2021. Last week on April 1st was the second edition of the 401 Gives Day from the United Way. And I don't have the full numbers yet of what we were able to raise through our profile on the United Way's website and on our own website and through checks that have come in. But I will say, I mean, from what I've seen so far, I think we're on track to match or beat what we did last year. And I think it just speaks to how much people in the community really, really want to help. So it's tough that there's such a need for it. And it's tough that our services, we've certainly seen more clients with struggling to pay for food, struggling to pay for all the critical expenses. It's so incredibly hard to see, but we're not fighting this battle alone. And it's just been so phenomenal to see people just trying to contact us to say all the time, how can we help? What do you need? How can we make that happen? It is so incredibly wonderful about this community.
It's so good to hear that the heart of this community is still generous and charitable, and that they've reached out, and that you're not in this alone, because it's such an important mission. And I hope the folks listening will reach out because, like I said, you're the preeminent social services charitable organization. When you think of it in Westerly, you think of Jonnycake, and I really hope they reach out to you today and all the way into the future. We've gone a little long, but I'm not going to let you go without asking one of my favorite questions, and that's that Westerly's hundreds of years old, but we have hundreds of years of future ahead of us. What do you hope for the future of Westerly?
That is a good question. I hope that I hope it doesn't go against my self-interest. I do hope that there is a substantial reduction in need to our services. I'll go as far as to even say that in a perfect world, I agree that we shouldn't need to exist. I love my job. I truly love working for the Jonnycake Center Westerly. But in a perfect world, in a Westerly of our dreams, there wouldn't be anybody at all who can't pay for their food for themselves. There wouldn't be anybody who has to choose between paying off their car, or paying off their house, or putting enough food on the table. I hope for a community that embraces all the best that we've seen in the last year in terms of people really looking out for each other, for saying we're doing all right, others aren't doing as well. Let's help bridge the gap. I think as much of that as we can possibly see going forward. I think that's what Westerly needs. That's what the whole world needs.
Matt, Levy, thank you so much for spending your morning with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope we can meet again soon, and I wish you all the best.
If you're ever in Jonnycake, just come ask for me.
Okay.
And Matt, if you ever have anything else to share, if you want to give an update, if you want to do anything, just give us a heads up, and you can come on the show. And you're always welcome to talk about whatever's happening at Jonnycake or anything else. So thank you very much.
I said thank you very much for having me on. It was a pleasure.
Awesome.
Right.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
It was our pleasure. All right. So guys, just a reminder, to donate, go to jonnycake.org, JONNYCAKE.org, or call their donation line 401-315-4708, or you can send a check to the Jonnycake Center at 23 Industrial Drive in Westerly. There, obviously, 23 Industrial Drive is also where the thrift shop, the food pantry, all of that stuff is, the physical location, and their general line for services or questions, 401-377-8069. Mike, that was one of my favorite episodes yet. But they all have been.
Yeah.
And
I'm so glad we got to spend our morning with him. And
me too.
We have him here in New England from Ohio. We got him.
And we got more theater nerds here, so that's nice.
And we have Jonnycake Center of Westerly.
Yeah.
What an institution.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it, and I'm sure that we'll hear more from Matt and from Jonnycake Center and those other social programs that they work with, because that's the goal. That's as you say, Mike, reintroducing Westerly to itself, introducing Westerly to its neighbors, and finding out what's happening in Westerly and what there is for support. Also, just something that I want to end on. If you are someone or a family or anything like that who is in need of help of these social services, please do not let stigma or pride or anything like that stop you from reaching out to these organizations for help. I think that reaching out for help when you need it is one of the bravest things, the most courageous things that you can do for you and your family. And I know from experience that it is embarrassing. It can be embarrassing. It shouldn't be, but it can be embarrassing. It can be hard to ask for help when you need it. I personally, in different times in my life, if I literally am the kind of person that would rather not eat lunch than go out to lunch with a friend and have them pay for it, because I'm stubborn and prideful, and when in 2005, my mom, we went to I didn't know where we were going, and we went to a church in Charlestown. This was in November, and it was a food pantry for Thanksgiving, and I was mad, and I didn't know what was happening, and I was mad. And looking back as an adult, I realized that my dad had a stroke in 2004 and was out of work for over a year, and there were a lot of other circumstances that my family had no control over, and the you know the stigmas of shame and embarrassment and all of those things that will sometimes prevent us from reaching out for help are things that are unnecessary, and hopefully we can avoid going forward, especially during the pandemic, when so many people are now in spots like that, right? Everybody has been knocked on their ass this year in one way or another, or the vast majority of people. And and I just want to encourage everyone, if you are watching this, if you know somebody that's watching this that could use the services of the Jonnycake Center or any other of those organizations, please do not hesitate to reach out for help, because it is the bravest thing that you can do. It is the most courageous thing that you can do. And it's the best thing that you can do for you and your family, is to get help when you need it. And those organizations are filled with wonderful people like Matt, who are there to help and care and get you back on your feet and sustainable, so that that is not a situation that you have to deal with in the future.
Thank you so much for giving that message, Ben, and for working towards that destigmatization, and for the vulnerability it takes to share that story. It was beautiful.
I mean, I don't think I would have shared it then by any stretch of the imagination, but as an adult, I realized how much courage that must have taken my mom, and wonderful people like Matt and Lee and everyone at Jonnycake Center make stuff like that easier, So I think that mental health stigmas against social services, stigmas against it's been a year of a pandemic, and you are not alone. If you've had a rough year, you are not alone. If you have been out of work, you are not alone. If you have a family member that's been sick, you are not alone. If you got kicked off of your health insurance for reasons that have nothing to do with anything that you did and seem ludicrous, you are not alone. If you need help,
you're not alone. Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's something that really, it touched me right now. It's something that it really gets you to hear when you feel alone and someone reminds you that you're not. Thank you so much for sharing it.
No problem, Mike.
I know I needed to hear it, and I'm sure someone else listening did too. Well, thank you for spending your morning with me, Ben.
Thank you for spending your morning with me. Please go back to your beautiful family. I'm going to go upstairs and have breakfast with the best friends in the world. I cannot wait until things get a little bit better and we all get vaccinated, and you and I and those two families can hang out in person. I'm very excited and looking forward to that.
Me too. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for next week when we have Westerly Land Trust coming.
I was gonna say I don't know who the guest is.
I'm off booking guests. I
know. I love it. This is your show. This is your show, and I'm just here pressing buttons. I love it. You're one of my favorite people, Mike, and I'm so excited about that. And if you want to be on This Week in Westerly, send an email to Michael T. Niemeyer at gmail.com. Do not try to write it yourself. Look at that email and copy it and write it down. I have been friends with him for almost 15 years, and I still mess up his last name sometimes. So write down that email right now and send him an email, or you can just leave a message on wherever you're watching this, and come on This Week in Westerly and talk to us about what you do and what you love and what you'd like, what you think needs to change for the better.
We'd love to have you. And just once again, thank you so much, Ben.
Thank you. All right. And see you next week.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
We need a video ending.